And you know how they're annoying? Like you go on a website and you have this pop-up and you look at it, it's like, why are you here? I'm trying to do something else. And you just like click on the X. That's exactly what you do with your work-related thoughts. So you literally just cancel the pop-up.
It's basically like those annoying ad pop-ups, you know, when you don't have an ad, I don't know,
blocker.
Blocker. I love this idea.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Friday coffee chat. We are sitting here. We were just talking how it almost seems like it's a summer day, even though the temperatures are not saying that yet.
Almost there.
Almost there.
We
almost
have the
there.
visuals of it.
Yeah. We are having some tea here. We are all ready for another Friday coffee chat. And this one is actually a topic that when we were thinking about topics for the Friday coffee chats, we were just wondering, how is this not an episode? Because it feels like we have been talking about this phenomenon in
so many times.
almost every episode. And yet
times,
somehow it has never been the focus of one episode. And that topic is how to detach from work. What we mean by detaching is not thinking about work when you are not working.
So it really is about those moments, you know, when you're at home and like you finished work technically like a good 3 hours ago and it's like 9 p.m. or something, and you're at home, you had some dinner, you're sitting, you want to relax, but your brain is still on work mode. It is still thinking about work, still thinking about your tasks, still thinking about things that happened at work, the interactions you had, all of these things. So basically you're not working, but your brain is still in working mode. And the question is, how can we get over this, right? How can we stop this? Because it is something that keeps us very occupied and is taking energy and time away from us. But it's actually notoriously difficult to stop thinking about something, actually.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And I think if you're someone who is working a lot and who tends to also put a lot of time in work, it's very difficult to create this mental barrier between, okay, I'm not at work, so I won't think about work anymore. Because a lot of the times we just can't control our thoughts, right? Like they come and go. Sometimes they are super automatic. And especially when there's things at work that require more thinking, or especially when there's a problem at work that we haven't solved yet, and perhaps it's a complex problem that requires more time to be solved and to be for a solution to be figured out, it's much more difficult to then disconnect because your brain doesn't know whether you're at work or not. Your brain is still going to go into, okay, find a solution. And that can happen while you're watching Netflix. That can happen when you're in the shower. That can happen over the weekend as well. So how do you then disconnect? And is it even good to disconnect? I think that's also a question to address, because I can imagine that some people would think, oh yeah, but if my brain is thinking of a solution about work, that is productive, right? So that is something that...
Well, let's just say we know the research, and I think the research is very clear into a very certain direction, whether it's good or not.
So let's just take it from the start. What is detachment? Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? Why do you need it in your life? And perhaps maybe whether we actually managed to detach regularly. I don't want to say every day, but regularly.
We're about balance here. Perfectionism doesn't exist,
Exactly.
Even with detaching. It's okay.
So, what is detachment? According to research, detachment is mentally disconnecting from work when you are not working. So that is really at the level of cognition, right? It is really at the level of thoughts. You may not see it. Let's say you may see a family member, a partner, a friend or so. Maybe you're watching Netflix together, but they're thinking about work, but that's not necessarily visible. So detachment is really all about what is happening at a cognitive level, what is happening with our thoughts when we are not working. And what research is very clear about is the benefits of detaching from work. So far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any negative consequences of detachment identified in the research. So detachment is a predictor of higher well-being. Detachment is a predictor of job satisfaction, and all of these good things that we want in our lives. But it is very difficult still, while knowing all of these benefits, it is very difficult to actually do it.
Absolutely. And again, we touched upon this already, but the reason is that we spend a lot of time at work, right? And we experience different things. It's work for a lot of us is also important, right? We think about ourselves as, I don't know, as for us, it's researchers, psychologists. We think of ourselves as teachers or whatever it is. We really identify ourselves in a way through our occupation and the work that we do, because at the end of the day, most of us are working at least around 40 hours every week there. And a lot happens, right? We have tasks we want to do well. There's things that we need to do. Sometimes we have a lot of workload, there's deadlines, but also there's a lot of interactions that happen at the workplace with our colleagues, with our supervisors, with clients maybe. And of course, it takes up a lot of our time. And then it becomes sometimes very difficult, though, even though it is super important, to detach afterwards. And this can be for various reasons. It can be, as we mentioned before, it might be because you're trying to solve a problem. Maybe something didn't work, and you're trying to think about it and trying to solve it because you need that closure in a way. Or maybe you had an interaction with your supervisor or a colleague or a client and it didn't go the way you wanted it to. A lot of the times, these are the moments where then we go at home and we can't stop thinking about it, right? We ruminate about, how could I have done it differently? How could I have done this? Why did this person react in this way? And so on and so on and so on. So these are examples of how a lack of detachment or struggling to detach from work can realistically look like in our everyday life.
So this episode is really going to be about what do we do? Because I feel like we've all been in this situation where work is kind of creeping into our personal lives, and we're almost mad at ourselves that this is happening. Well, when we realize it, we're aware of it, but yet we still cannot push those thoughts away. And actually, it all starts the morning before you even go to work with the process that is called reattachment. And as we've talked about in various episodes of this podcast, reattachment is literally tuning into the role of work. So we know that we have multiple roles in our lives, and usually in the morning on a work day, we tune into the work role in the morning and we leave all the other roles behind. And the process of reattachment is cognitively tuning into the workplace. That can happen on your commute, for instance. You start thinking about what you need to do today. You start thinking about your meetings for today and so on. And this can almost happen automatically. It's sometimes not even in our, let's say, field of awareness, but we are reattaching to work in the morning. And doing so is actually very good for maintaining energy levels and work engagements throughout the day.
I'm curious, how do you reattach? Are you aware of it?
I think I've gotten to a point where I'm not aware of it, but I think it does happen without me being aware of it. It's almost like a habit of the mind. I think it happens on the commute more so.
Because I feel like I don't remember me ever thinking about, okay, let's reattach now.
Yeah, I feel like it's not a conscious decision.
It's like, you go to work in the morning. You might be thinking about, I think I'm thinking about work. I'm thinking about, okay, I'll get there and then I'll do this and then I have to do that. And then I'll check my emails first. I feel like for me, reattaching actually starts a lot also when Well, when I work from home, it's at my desk, and when I'm at work, it's also at my work desk. So at the office, it's also at my office desk. It's like reading my emails first and looking at my schedule.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like this is reattaching, but it's interesting because I feel like it happens so automatically, but it has such an important effect or role. One of the reasons why reattachment is also quite helpful is because it kind of prompts you to, again, think about your day and you're planning what is happening. And oftentimes it helps you with contingency planning. So contingency planning means not just having, okay, I'll do this, 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 and this, but also thinking about, okay, what might happen today that will be a challenge or a hindrance to me achieving the goals that I've set for myself for today. So this already kind of, even when you're not super aware of it, it can help you kind of make your workday more successful and more seamless.
Let's say that you have reattached to your work role and now you are in your work role and the workday has started. And you might think, okay, but what are they talking about? What does this have to do with detaching from work afterwards? Well, actually, there are things you can do during the workday that can help you detach afterwards. So leave work at work, basically.
It really is about kind of doing the work. It's like being not working on the symptoms, right? But rather being preventative about it, because there are so many things that can happen or you can do during your workday that will be a make or break of whether you'll be able to detach later on. And the first thing that is super important and that you can do during your workday is to make sure that you don't have big unfinished tasks at the end of your workday. So what does this mean? Because obviously a lot of us work in jobs where, you can't just finish, there's like a bigger task and you can't just finish them within one day, right? So there will be certain unfinished tasks or some things may take longer. But what we mean by that is, if it is about an hour, half an hour before your working day is done, don't start a new task that you will not be able to finish, right? Maybe take this time for some admin, to reply to emails, to make a plan for your next workday. But starting these tasks later on in the day and knowing that you cannot finish them and then you end up not finishing them, this will basically take away this feeling of closure. And we all have, to varying levels, but we all have a certain need for closure, right? And everything, it's like as if it's like an open tab in your mind. And if you can't close that tab, it's going to be open even when you go back home after work, and you will be thinking about it. So there's quite a bit of research that shows that having those unfinished tasks means the tab is open, and it is going to make you think about work a lot more, during times where you should be able to just relax and enjoy your life, basically.
But then there's also the case of, and this has happened multiple times with me, where I thought that a task would actually take super short. Like it was, let's say, 4 p.m. And I would just be like, you know what? I'm just going to do that really quickly. And it was not quickly.
It ended up being a
whole thing. And I realized, okay, I just created an unfinished task for myself. And that's okay. It can happen. Maybe it's difficult to sometimes gauge how long a task is going to take. But what's important there is to still stop and not let it go into overtime. And the thing that you can do, and we also know from research that this can actually help, is to make a plan. So that can help you get, let's say, a simulated closure, because you still know what your game plan is, what you're going to do the next day, for instance, but it still allows you to stop on time and to not ruminate about work. So for instance, for me, I just made a plan of, okay, tomorrow morning, it actually happened super recently with a YouTube video. Because you know how these things take a whole long time to render. And I was just like, okay, I really thought this would be faster, but it wasn't. And what I did then is to literally write, okay, first thing in the morning, I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this. And this whole task is going to then be finished. But I would still leave this for the next morning or for the next work day in order to be able to create this separation, even though a task was unfinished.
That is really one of the most effective ways of, even when there's not closure in terms of finishing up a task, this gives you this feeling of closure just by writing a game plan and knowing, okay, I don't need to worry about this because tomorrow I'll look at my, notes and I will know exactly what to do.
Exactly.
It's such a, so simple, but so good.
And what can help here as well, especially if you have maybe not just one unfinished task, but many, actually, because that can
just a
happen
busy
too.
mind in general, I feel.
Exactly. What can help here is brain dumping. You can use the balance formula for that, or you can also just do it on a piece of paper. But if you feel like, let's say it's almost at the end of the workday and you know that, okay, I might have to, still think about work after the work is done, brain dump everything and sort it out the next day. Because in that way, you can really liberate your mind from all of these work thoughts. You put that on paper, and it's almost like you are transferring data from your laptop to a USB stick, and you're putting that USB stick away.
It really is. To me, it almost feels like I don't need to worry about forgetting any of it because it is saved on paper or on my brain dumping, tab in the balance formula where I'm like, I know it is safe there. I don't need to worry about it. It gives me such
I won't forget it.
I won't forget it. It gives me such a safety feeling almost.
It is. Because I feel like sometimes you can't rely on your brain to remember everything because it won't.
And you know that. That's why you are, your mind is racing.
Exactly.
And you're not detaching.
That's like the first thing that I tell everyone when I see that they don't have a brain. It's like, just write it down. Oh yeah, I'll remember. Like, no, you won't. Just write it down, just in case.
Some people do remember.
Really?
Some people do remember a lot though. And I'm always so, I don't know, in awe of it. Yeah. I know. I will forget things if I don't write them down.
It would be so nice to get like a glimpse into their brains and see how that works.
Yeah.
See, okay, how does your brain do this? Okay, then I'll do the same.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you're enjoying this Friday coffee chat, make sure to like this video and comment down below what is your best strategy for detaching. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another Friday coffee chat.
So this concludes, the strategies that you can use during your workday. But let's say you've tried all of this, or maybe you haven't, and for whichever reason, it's after work and you're at home and still you cannot really stop your thoughts about work. And it almost seems impossible to, kind of make them stop. And there are, again, different strategies that you can use here as well.
The first one is actually very simple, and it's one of our favorite things to do after work. And that is to create a transition routine. As we've mentioned, we have multiple roles in our life. So when you reattach, for instance, to work in the morning, you switch into the work role, right? But then when you detach from work after work, you have to switch from your work role into a whole different role, whether that is, let's say, your family role, your partner role, your friend role, your roommate role, whatever role you have, your self role, your athlete role, you name it. The idea here is to really make this disconnect from one role and transition into a different role mindfully. And this can be done with really creating a certain routine. For example, my favorite way of creating this transition routine is just commuting back home. So this can be something that can help. So when you're commuting back home after work, you then think, okay, now I'm going to switch off from my work role. I'm going to go into my next role, and this is what I'm going to do into my next role. So you really kind of cognitively rewire your brain to think about the next role that you're entering. And the other thing can just be simple things like I'm taking off my makeup, because that for me is the workday is done. And I'm in my home role, and I'm now just going to be my comfortable self in my sweatpants and just going to enjoy relaxing. And it can really be as simple as that. So it is really creating these behaviors, small behaviors that you attach meaning to, where they become your transition routines.
Another thing that can also help a lot is to schedule things that have nothing to do with work for right after work, right? So for me, this is typically I schedule dinners or drinks or something like this with friends, or I also really like scheduling workouts right after work. This really helps me to actually, switch into that other role, really. It's like when you do something that has nothing to do with work, right after work, it helps you move your thoughts to something else because you're having a conversation with a friend about something completely different, right? And you kind of move away from the work role into the friend role, or going for a Pilates class, right? This helps a lot to kind of move from the work role into your Pilates princess role, whatever it is. Just scheduling something that and having it also in your planner that has nothing to do with work can really create this almost like this barrier, this like marker of, okay, the workday is done and I'm doing things that will help me to actively shift my thoughts away from work and do something completely different.
But I have to say, I feel like with scheduling activities after work, this almost forces you to not think about work because you're in a completely different mind space.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've created that almost like simulated mind space for yourself. It's almost like in Severance, where you like have these transitions and like in your home role, you have no idea what is happening at work, but to a less dystopian extent.
I was about to say, I don't know how I feel about, comparing
it
to
way.
something dystopian like
in a
that.
healthy way. We don't want
It's
the extreme of
utopian,
Severance.
believe us. It's the utopian version of it.
Exactly. So it is really just having almost this, I don't want to say forced, but incentivized. Oh, that's a better word. An incentivized activity that helps you not think about work and make this transition faster.
But the reality is also that, sometimes, despite your best intentions and despite, trying these different strategies, you may still find yourself ruminating about work after work. So there are also certain like small, let's call them SOS tips that can help you basically, catch your thoughts that are about work and then kind of help you move away from it. And one very nice way of doing this is kind of taking the step back, looking at things from a distance and asking yourself, will this matter? Like, do I need to think about this now? Will this matter in a week? Will this matter in a month? Will this matter in a year? Do I need to basically freak out about this right now? And is it going to help me solve whatever issue it is? So really just, a bit of a reality check with yourself and whether this is truly going to help you, or is it just maybe, how do you call it, like the automatic knee-jerk reaction of your brain to trying to get some sort of closure.
My favorite technique here with SOS tips is actually to just think of my brain as a computer and just cancel the thoughts. You know how sometimes you have tabs that open up and you just cancel that window?
Yeah.
It's exactly doing that. Because
so visualizing
they
that,
pop
you mean?
up, and you know how they're annoying. Like you go on a website and you have this pop up and you look at it, it's like, why are you here? I'm trying to do something else. And you just like click on the X. That's exactly what you do with your work-related thoughts. So you literally just cancel the pop-up.
It's basically like those annoying ad pop-ups, when you don't have an ad, I don't know,
blocker.
Blocker. I love this idea.
You cancel your work-related thoughts. And that can really, really help to just visualize, okay, I'm not closing this tab. I don't need this. I'm trying to do something else. And this pop-up is preventing me from enjoying whatever else I'm doing. But sometimes even that cannot work. Like maybe sometimes you have a very complex problem at work that you need to solve and it's just eating up your brain power. or maybe something happened, or maybe there's a conflict at work that you're kind of involved in and you're still thinking about how to solve it. These things can happen. It's not just all easy and nice. And when that happens, the best thing that you can do to still save your detachment on that day is to brain dump, to just take 5 minutes and put everything on paper in your balance formula and make a plan for that, and then call it a day, because it will still be in your mind if you don't take it out of it.
You know, I have this a lot when I know that the next day is going to be quite packed and very busy. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm already thinking, okay, I need to, I don't know, wash my hair until this and this time. I need to be done with makeup until that time. I need to be out of the house by that time, and so on and so on, right? So I typically don't really think about, okay, it needs to be exactly that time when I wash my hair. But again, when things get busy, you start thinking a lot smaller when it comes to what you need to do and at what time you need to do them, right? And I noticed that this occupies so much space in my mind. But actually, even if it is like 11 p.m. and you're in bed and you're like, oh, I can't sleep because I'm somehow constantly thinking about everything that I need to do. The amount of times I actually got up and took a piece of paper and wrote down exactly what time I wake up, after how many minutes, I'm showering, everything that I need to do, literally like so detailed. And it has helped me then go to bed and be able to sleep. Because it is again about this like fear of forgetting about something or not managing something. And again, even if it means to get up from bed and write this down, do it, because you will, like, this will be so much more helpful than to trying to tell yourself, oh, I need to sleep now. Now I need to stop thinking. Like, I feel like stop thinking is the worst advice you can
it's
give
kind of
to
like,
yourself.
Oh, are
or
you
others.
sad? Don't be sad.
Yeah, it's the
same
worst thing.
Oh, you're thinking about work? Just don't.
Just don't. It's like, oh, thank you. If I would have just known that it's so easy. Thank you so much. Like, you deserve a Nobel Prize. No, this is not how it works. And just put it on paper. Like, this will be your best friend.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a personal assistant.
I do that with my calendar, I have to say. And then the calendar actually gives me notifications, let's say in the morning. If I have like a very packed morning and I need to be somewhere at a specific time, I have like notifications. Okay, now you have to put your makeup on. Now you have to have breakfast. Now you have to have coffee. And if it's like very overwhelming, this actually helps because it almost like outsourcing your planning and outsourcing your regulation on your calendar. And that just gives you a bit of leeway in that sense. Because you're like, okay, I'm just going to execute now. Execute.
100%. 100%. So you guys, we really hope that this Friday coffee chat gave you a little bit more of an idea about what detachment means, why it is important, and also what the challenges are or the reasons why detaching from work can be quite challenging. And of course, we really hope that, the strategies that we shared, that you could take something from it and that they will help you to, well, not have to worry about work when you're relaxing on your couch at home at 9 p.m.
And if you loved this episode, you can support our Friday coffee chats by buying us a coffee. And if you know a friend that struggles with detaching or is always complaining that they're thinking about work, maybe send this episode to help them too. See you in the next one.
Bye.